Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Next Great Car Era, a podcast by EVTUNERS about charting a path in the new frontier for tuning culture and performance enthusiasts. Today I am joined by Terry Breheny. Terry founded Ohm On The Range Limited at the start of 2022 for the purpose of e-mobility exploration and education, both two wheels and four, but with an emphasis on the conversion of classical vehicles. In addition to his background in bicycling advocacy, Terry is a lifelong gearhead, having worked as a professional test driver and certified driving instructor. When not happily busy tinkering in the garage, he can be found on his mountain bike in the foothills of Colorado. Enjoy. Awesome. Well, Terry, it's great to see you. So much to talk about, but I'm curious, how was SEMA?
SEMA was amazing. SEMA was SEMA. Yeah, it's like, as they say, being a kid in a candy shop.
How many times have you gone before?
This was probably my fifth time, I think. Yeah, I think this was number 5 for me.
I'm still seeing like people posting stuff. There was so much going on, even though it was a couple weeks ago now. It's still like that. The SEMA hashtag is just people are posting all sorts of content, different cars, builds that they saw, or events outside, drift competitions, all sorts of stuff. Just about any type of car you're into seems like it had someone there.
Yeah, and that's really the beauty of the show is it really doesn't matter what you're into. If it's on 4 wheels, there will be, it will be there.
Pretty good EV representation.
Yeah, not too shabby. So this year was kind of the first year. I mean, they might have kind of done it last year, but this was really the first year of SEMA Electrified, where they made a concentrated effort, I think, to kind of showcase some of the EV stuff happening.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there was a whole section of the show called SEMA Electrified, and yeah, so that was really cool, and to see some old friends and colleagues, folks that came out to the conference, State of Charge show and all that, and a couple of builds, that hadn't been done before, and they got done just in time for SEMA, so that was really cool to see kind of all that stuff come together as well.
Seems like there's always a rush up to SEMA.
Yes.
That's the deadline everyone cares about.
Yeah, it's a little stereotypical, but it's surprising how many times you hear people say, like, we literally pushed it on the trailer last night and drove it. We don't even know if it works yet or whatever. I mean, you hear that over and over and over.
Nothing like a deadline.
Yeah, for sure.
It was great to hear SEMA is catching on to the EV interest and excitement and things like that. For yourself, when did you find yourself getting interested in EVs?
I think probably it started, I was test driving for Audi, and I got to get behind the wheel of the RS e-tron GT, which is kind of their halo, flagship electric vehicle. And just opened up a world for me, just seeing that kind of the torque. I'd never driven a Tesla or anything like that, so for me that experience was new. And I'm kind of an old school hot rod kind of guy, love old cars, gearhead, but I can appreciate the performance and the power. So it seems like these days there's a lot of it can be black and white. People either hate them or they love them. And, it's interesting that a lot of people that love them are also people that grew up building V8s or imports or whatever the case may be. And, it's really for the performance. And I think also to an extent, doing something new, right? I mean, that's kind of the history of hot rodding, really,
Sure.
Tinkering with cars, trying to make them better, faster, more powerful. And this is just kind of the next iteration of that, in my opinion. So yeah, after driving the RS e-tron GT and just seeing what kind of performance that had, and that torque on demand, just really opened my eyes. So yeah.
At this point, have you driven more Teslas and have a bunch of points of comparison? Because I'm curious. I've heard that the e-tron, what it lacks in range, it makes up more so with refinement. compared to
Yeah,
some of the newer offerings? Curious if you'd agree.
that's a good question. So yeah, I mean, I've driven a handful, the Polestar and the Lucid and the Kia EV6, and then trying to think what else. Um, so yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. They're all kind of fit differently in a way, and obviously, I may not have driven some of the others the same way that I might have driven the Audi a little bit. So um, it's great to see. I think the manufacturers and what they're bringing to market, and in terms of performance. I mean, it's love him or hate him. Elon Musk, I think, gets a lot of credit for pushing this through, and the fact that people are going out and buying these Tesla plaids, which will embarrass most other vehicles on the road at a stoplight. So it's fun just to see, and like I said, I also kind of get a kick out of seeing people get all frustrated, or the haters, if you will,
Yeah.
the internet trolls.
Yeah, it's good to see him get all huffy for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Um, being a test driver, you said you're not driving all these other cars like Audi. What could you help me understand? Because I'm just curious. What's being a test driver for a car like that like?
Well, it really just depends. A lot of it, obviously, with new vehicles, are there's so much software, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
really, I mean, our jobs were just to find issues. So all these cars are wired to the hilt, with all kinds of data recording going on and monitoring systems and all that. And so we just kind of put them through the paces, and then kind of track what might need attention here and there. And sometimes there'll be specific tests from engineers, or sometimes it's just going out and putting 300 miles on a car at up at 11,000 feet up here in Colorado,
mm,
or Squaw Pass, or so. Yeah, it really kind of depends. But the bottom line is, it's that quality assurance step, really, right? They're trying to find all the bugs and issues before they're released to market. So
sure.
yeah.
Is the process different when you're benchmarking and testing for a EV compared to like a ICE car?
Um, I'm sure on the engineering side, absolutely, but as a driver, not really so much.
Not so much.
A lot of it is really just you're putting yourself in the seat as a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
If you just went out and dropped, $140,000 on a RS6 or something like that, you don't want it to not be able to turn on the seat heater or whatever the case may be. So those are the kinds of you're just trying to figure out all those kinds of little quirks and bugs and whatnot. So
That's cool.
yeah.
So fast forward a little bit, from test driving the e-tron into now you're starting something really cool, Ohm on the Range, and even had the first of hopefully many meetings, state of charge conferences. So could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, the back in August of this year, 2022, we had our inaugural event, State of Charge. And
Woohoo!
yeah, it was really exciting. And when I started to put this together, this all came together fairly quickly. So I started Ohm on the Range in January of this year, and so you know I have in addition to the test driving, I was in the nonprofit world for a dozen plus years and doing things like events and conferences and all that as well. So I was trying to figure out a good way to kind of dip my foot in the pool, so to speak. And I thought, it'd be great to try to get a lot of these people together. There's a lot of smart people doing some really interesting things in this conversion
Mm-hmm.
space. And personally, I was looking at wanting to do a conversion of my own, and when you go online and you try to figure out, okay, do I use a Hyper 9? Do I use a Tesla motor? Do I use something from Cascadia? Am I using lithium ion batteries, prismatic batteries? There's so many options, and so I thought, why not get all of these people that are either doing it or have done it, and let's bring them together and try to share a little bit of that knowledge, and maybe even create a little bit of a community here. So yeah, so I was very, very pleased with the turnout. We had folks from 13 states come out to Colorado, even on the,
Wow.
yeah, from the East Coast, New York and Connecticut and Georgia and North Carolina and then of course California and Texas and Utah. And so, I mean, um, it was really very well received. And, you know, immediately people were asking, okay, so when's the next one?
Yeah.
so, so yeah, I think that bodes well for the interest. And yeah, and it kind of aligns partially with my mission for Ohm on the Range is really um, a big segment of it will be in kind of education. And so the goal is to kind of help um, um, invite folks and just kind of introduce them to this process. And again, more focus on the conversion side of classic vehicles.
Sure.
So getting folks interested and just knowing that even A, that it's possible to do, and then B, what's involved in doing it for those folks that want to try to do it themselves and whatnot. And so, the goal is to be able to kind of offer this hands-on training and really kind of gear it to a wide audience. So whether you're a middle school STEM student, right, or somebody in a community college, studying automotive tech, or maybe you are an automotive tech that's been working for 20 years and with ICE vehicles, and you see the writing on the wall, and you kind of want to know, hey, what's this all about? So I'm hoping to be able to offer multiple training and curricula, based on those various levels and demographics. Um, yeah, just to get people interested and engaged a little bit.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Do you envision this as being, and maybe it's all of the above, is this online curricula or in-person classes, like intensive workshops, come out for a week and
Yeah.
dive in, or what are you thinking?
So ideally more the latter, but certainly I would imagine it will end up being both. But yeah, the real interest is having that hands-on opportunity. So
Mm-hmm.
I recently myself went out and did the legacy EV intensive training in person,
Yeah.
and so that's I'm talking with those folks about being able to offer that program, here in Colorado. Talking to other folks doing various kinds of curricula, and again, whether it's for kids and using mini bikes, for
Mm-hmm.
example. At the college level, there's a karting scene, electric carts, and so I mean, there's a kind of this wide range of opportunity, I think. But yeah, the goal is to find a space and be able to offer hands-on training here. So
And being a nonprofit, does that offer some unique opportunities or potentials that you have in mind for making this happen for folks? Maybe like partnering with schools and some of the kids you were talking about.
and so just to be clear, currently I'm not a nonprofit, but I am exploring that
Oh,
option.
okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. So that exactly right. I am trying to determine whether if that's the route to go down. Um, but yeah, the goal would be to partner with schools and whatnot, and yeah. So whether that ends up being through a nonprofit or not, I haven't determined just yet.
But the end goal is the same,
Yeah,
engaging a broad audience of different types of people.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
Have you found more interest on kind of like the uh, I want to say consumer side, but it's really like hobbyist or people who are looking for training? Like, I want to go work for an OEM, but there's not as much information out there to get these EV skills. So where can I get it?
Yeah, I don't, that'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out. I mean, I think, with my interest and now my kind of foray into the conversion scene, I'm much more now connected with that kind of crowd that is folks that are wanting to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think that'll be a big opportunity. Um, but again, depending on those partnerships and what curricula does get offered, it could very well be something where an ASE tech could come and take these courses or whatnot, and whether there's a certification behind it or whatnot, or even really, I think at least at this point my goal is again, just kind of that introductory overview. I mean, not, more advanced than just a simple overview, obviously, but
Sure.
I'm not looking to replace somebody going to a tech school for 2 years or anything like that. If anything, I'm hoping that somebody that's thinking about that might come, take these courses or whatnot, and then go, oh yeah, this is really cool, this is for me, and then go and sign up for, a tech school where they can
Yeah.
get more intensive on, long-term training in a degree or whatnot.
Almost like a tactical way to help cultural awareness build within the car community. Sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah, for sure. And more and more these conversions, especially of classic vehicles, start showing up at car shows and SEMA, and I mean, that's I think that's something that's going to open up more and more people's eyes. A lot of folks have, or I shouldn't say a lot, but some people have old cars that may not even run per se.
Hmm.
It's like, kind of, this would just provide another opportunity, even if they weren't necessarily interested in dropping in some high horsepower revolt system, but they just convert it to electric, with a 50-mile range, just to take to the local car show, Cars and Coffee or whatever, on a weekend. I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
That sounds good to me. I'd love to
Yeah,
see more of that.
yeah. So, yeah, yeah, and so it's been fun to watch, through the conference, through some of the training that I've partaken in, and then being out at SEMA and whatnot, and at this point I have a pretty decent network, and it's fun to see people from across the country and what they're building, what they're working on, what they want to build, and like I said, I think I can't wait to see what SEMA Electrified looks like in 2023.
Yeah. Seems like it's everything is changing really rapidly. I remember when I was first looking at EV conversions, there's a few websites out there that you can read through posts and stuff, and people would come with ideas. Oh, I want to swap this cool car. And it was pretty much like, nope, you need a super light car, old, it's got to be a Volkswagen or Carmen Ghia or an old Porsche, and that's it. And, kind of like a little bit like this is the only way forward. But now we're seeing people that are, like there's Mr. Mopar Man, his big Plymouth Satellite, which totally tears. There's people starting to do 90s tuners cars. I think there you might have seen Red Goes Green, the NSX that's EV swapped, and a bunch of other stuff too that are kind of like breaking that convention of like it doesn't have to be super light 70s Porsche anymore.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And that's the crazy thing, is that a lot of folks talk about, we're kind of on the bleeding edge, and the early adopters, but obviously, I mean, people have been converting cars to electric since the 70s. There have been people
Right.
that in the 80s and 90s were doing conversions of cars, and I think that's where a lot of what you're talking about comes from, because back then, the technology did kind of dictate, like, had to be super light, super aerodynamic.
Mm-hmm.
They were using lead acid batteries, and you know little DC motors, and so the technology has really changed, exponentially since then, and so that's become less important. I mean, obviously, physics tells us, the lighter something is, the faster it's going to be with the same amount of power, and or the further it would go on the same amount of power. So, there's still those considerations to make, but I think there are less constraints now than just maybe best practices. So, you know, we've got General Motors doing the Hummer. There's
Mm-hmm.
it's like that doesn't get probably much heavier and or non-aerodynamic than a
That's right.
massive Hummer. So
True to the name.
yeah, yeah. But no, it is cool. Even just at the State of Charge conference, we had the 59 Galaxy, or excuse me, the 64 Galaxy, the
Mm, yeah.
258 Apaches, Chevy trucks, the 65 Mustang, the 72 Satellite that you talked about, the 62 Corvair, 71 Volkswagen Type 2, Type 3, whatever the wagon looking thing is. Yeah, I mean, it's you can really do whatever you want. We have a Porsche 912, and then Legacy brought their what was that 65 F100. So I mean, again, you're not as constrained as we once were.
Yeah, it's nice.
The big
Makes it
constraint
even
now
more.
is your pocketbook.
But you mentioned, maybe someone's goal is a 50-mile-an-hour range for cars and coffee, something like that. Do you see there being does it always have to be a high dollar build, or there's some routes for, maybe going something more quick and modest, just get out there, start driving it, and then plan for the upgrade later?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think there is that spectrum, if you will. You've got the high end, high performance, high dollar builds, and then you have the cheapest do it yourself builds that they may not be as fast or have as much range, but you can still do some really nice things. I mean, EV Swap Denver, two gentlemen, Jimmy Underhill and Josh Ball, they did a Land Cruiser, and
Cool.
that was a Nissan Leaf swap. So they bought a wrecked Nissan Leaf and swapped everything over to this Land Cruiser, and they even made it solar actually too.
Really?
But I believe, and I may be mistaken, but I believe during his presentation at the conference that he said they were in that for about $8,000, maybe, or maybe they paid $8,000. So I'm sure that doesn't include labor, but I think they paid $8,000 for the Leaf, and then we're able to use the motor, the batteries, be able to use all the stuff. So, and they ended up with this awesome Land Cruiser that they take rock crawling in Moab.
That's
So
so cool.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
starting to get into the territory of people who buy, big, I got to save up and get a crate engine, something like that,
oh yeah,
really redo it, and
yeah,
similar cost.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for sure, depending on what kind of crate engine you want, you can easily drop $15,000 on just a crate engine, from the ice world. So the big component these days, I think, is batteries. That the batteries are kind of the 500-pound gorilla in the room, as they say.
And they are over 500 pounds.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, very very expensive and very very heavy. So I think that's really going to I think that'll be the interesting thing to watch going forward. Is I think once that side of the technology matures and changes, then I think it's really going to open the floodgates. There's a lot of work being done, obviously competing technologies, solid state, for example, so I think at some point somebody's going to figure it out, and
Yeah.
somebody's going to make a lot of money, obviously, because when they figure that out, and when we get batteries that have, that high capacity and high discharge rate and are able to be charged as fast or faster than filling a tank of gas, I think that's what's going to be the game changer for sure.
Yeah. Excited for that personally. That'll be
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
But
So
in the meantime, what's your advice for people who may or just be kind of starting to hear about this? They want to get involved. They want to see some of these things. How do you generally guide folks towards participating in this growing community?
yeah. Well, we're lucky too that we have now a new magazine, right? EV Builders Guide. So it's a magazine that just launched last this year, I guess. So they're doing 2 issues a year.
Mm-hmm.
They just released the second issue at SEMA, and they had an earlier issue in the spring of this year. And so that's a really nice way to kind of see what's going on. And then hopefully folks will consider, coming to State of Charge 23, coming to the conference. and again, kind of meeting some of these people in person. I mean, that was the great thing about the event, was we had, all these people from all walks of life and different parts of the country and different kinds of builds. And it was just, everybody was super friendly and willing to share. And, we had folks come, I had asked during the registration process if you had ever built an EV before, or were you working on one, or had you completed one? And it was about, I'm going to say it was about 25% maybe hadn't done one at all. And then of the 75% left, about half of them had done one already, and the other half of those folks were currently building one. So
Cool.
yeah, so it was really kind of cool. But then the point being is that everybody was willing to talk to everybody else. People that had built cars were learning stuff from other folks too, and to see all people taking pictures of each other's cars, and, oh, how'd you do this, and, oh, that's really cool, and why did you go down this road, or why did you choose this? And so that's kind of the community aspect of it that is really exciting for me. And I'm hope to be able to uh, continue with providing these opportunities, whether they be state of charge. I'm also talking to some folks about it, another kind of event maybe, which is a little too soon to talk about, but might be able to get out and drive your cars a little bit.
Ooh,
Yeah. So the idea being, let's get all these people together, right?
that's awesome. We'll be looking forward to hearing the details on that. But in the meantime, State of Charge 2023. I'll add the information in show notes and whatnot, but can you give us just the high level, when, where, how to sign up?
Yes. So if you actually go to soc23.com right now, I have just kind of a quick sign up so that folks can stay in the loop, basically.
Cool.
You can indicate there whether you're interested in speaking or sponsoring, or if you have a car that you're building or have built that you'd like to show, or you just want to attend. So it's just kind of a way to gauge some interest. And already, I just put that up during SEMA, and already I've had, probably a dozen folks register online. And, again, I don't think any of them are even in Colorado. So it's kind of cool to see that. But
Yeah.
it will be, I believe, the first weekend in August. And then very likely in Golden, Colorado. Again, probably may or may not be the same venue, but the same area. I found that it's located very well, just
Mm-hmm.
right off I-70, and people that are driving in also 40 minutes from the airport. So I mean, it's a pretty decent location for that. But yeah, the idea would be to that first weekend in August. And part of the thinking there is I'm trying to see if there's some tie-in. Here in Golden, we have what's called the Golden Super Cruise, and it's the first Saturday of the month from May to October.
Oh, cool.
And it's been going on, years and years and years and years, and hundreds and hundreds of cars, and so my thinking is I would love to be able to kind of bring this EV conversion component to that event too, so that as people are cruising, that'll really, I think, kind of open up a lot of folks' eyes. And clearly we'll get a bunch of haters as well. But the point being, it'd be kind of fun to crash that party, if you will.
Yeah. You have some really good ideas about how to kind of dovetail in with other things going on. I love that.
So yeah. So yeah, keep an eye open for that. But yeah, if you go to soc23.com, I'll be updating that as necessary. But in the meantime, like I said, you can feel free to sign up, and that way I'll be sure to let you know once more details emerge. And again, I would love to hear from people that are interested in speaking, that have something that they feel like they could share, or showing cars, or even sponsorships from corporate partners or whatnot. So yeah.
Cool. And then, I know we're running out of time. I'm curious though, in all the midst of this, do you know what your next build is going to be? Do you have something in mind? Are you able to share, or is it still shrouded in secrecy?
it's less secrecy than indecisiveness, to be honest.
Okay.
So I do have my daily driver is a 52 Ford F3, kind of a hot rod truck, uh,
Cool.
engine motor 351 Windsor I built for it. But I also picked up a 59 Galaxy with a friend of mine, and kind of the idea was to make that the conversion. So we'll see. That's a pretty big car. Getting back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And again, not that it can't be done, but it would require more money, more engineering, more space for batteries. So I'm having that internal debate right now of there's a reason a lot of people are doing, as you mentioned, the Porsches and Carnegie, any of the air cooled stuff.
Yeah.
Lightweight, pretty straightforward to pull the engine out and drop in a Hyper 9 system and whatnot, and you've got a great little power to weight ratio thing. And so yeah, I'm kind of going through that process in my head now. Like, do I step up and try to build something for this 59 Galaxy, or maybe do I find something a little bit smaller and more sprightly, if you will? So I don't know. We'll see. But I definitely would like to have a car of my own to take to SEMA electrified next year. So
Sounds like you put the goalpost in the ground there.
Yeah, right. Now I have to do it.
Uh-huh. Well, Terry, thanks so much for carving out the time to chat. This was awesome. There's so many exciting things on the horizon.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, like I said, feel free to find me on Instagram, Ohm On The Range. And I'm in a Holly High Voltage and the Electrify Expo. I'm trying to kind of get out there and meet folks that are interested in this stuff for sure. And I think, as they say, the rising tide raises all boats, and so that's what I'm finding, is that everybody's really uh, eager to help each other, and because we are at the beginning of this kind of round two, if you will, of the conversion scene. But there's some really exciting stuff being done, and as you mentioned, some really nice builds, like Kevin's Electrolyte, and the Revolt Mustang, and the Inspire Mustang, and at SEMA actually, Kindig had a Corvette conversion. Yeah, so
Oh, cool.
yeah, so I think it's only a matter of time before you go to SEMA and it's going to be Chip Foose conversion and the Ring Brothers conversion, right, and the Kindig conversion. So I mean, but I hope there's always going to be space for the little guy, the folks doing it out of their shop, or with a friend or whatnot. So exciting times either way.
Absolutely.
Keep
Agreed.
more classic cars on the road, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Keeps things interesting.
yeah, yeah. And that's just it. There's room for both, right? I mean, I love driving the Audi. I loved when I got to drive the Lucid.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to drive a 59 Galaxy, the battery powered as well. So there's room, I think, for everybody.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I'll add a lot of these links and stuff for you listening to in the show notes, so you can find Terry, reach out to him, and thanks again, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And maybe we'll see you in Golden as well.
That's on my wish list.
All right, we'll make it happen.
Love that. Alrighty. Take care.
Cheers.